And liftoff. Starliner is headed back to space on the shoulders of Atlas.
The Artemis generation stands ready to return humanity to the moon and then to take us further than ever before to Mars.
At NASA, we have always answered the innate call to go.
With Artemis,
we are going to stay.
proving that humanity
can live on the moon,
Mars,
and other worlds,
and share the wonders of the solar system with all.
Our story is one of people.
All those who make this journey possible.
From advocates across communities,
to companies across industries,
to countries around the world,
we achieve
this collective endeavor.
Our efforts create impact for all.
Technologies that revolutionize industries.
And jobs that bring prosperity to people.
The discoveries from space
benefit the way we live on Earth today.
And those from the moon
will create a better future
for generations to come.
But to do that,
we must go.
Hi, I'm Chell Ingram.
My name is Raja Chari.
Kayla Barron.
Kate Rubens. Hi, I'm Christina Cook.
NASA astronaut Joe Akaba.
Jessica Amir.
Woody Hoberg.
Ann McClain.
Stephanie Wilson.
My name is Johnny Kim.
Nicole Mann.
Victor Glover.
Jessica Watkins.
Hi, I'm Matthew Dominic.
Jasmine Mogbelli.
Frank Rubio.
Scott Tingle.
This is what we do. This is what we will do.
Let's go.
We go to the moon to learn how to live on other planets.
For the benefit of all.
And for more NASA videos, hit subscribe.
Welcome aboard NASA Tours. My name is George Herman. We'd like to bid you a warm welcome to the John F. Kennedy Space Center. During our tour today, we'll have recorded commentary, and at times I'll stop the tape to answer any questions you might have. For those of you with a camera, anything you see you may photograph. Now, smoking is not permitted on our bus, so let's just settle back and relax, and we'll begin our trip with the Western world's first spaceport. Cape Kennedy, formerly called Cape Canaveral, was selected as a site for testing ballistic missiles, and later as our nation's first spaceport. As our space program grew, the site was extended to include Merritt Island. One of the reasons this was an ideal site is that the first stage of a rocket doesn't go high enough to go into orbit, and when it falls back to Earth, we'd rather it fall back in the ocean than over inhabited areas. Another reason is, from this point, we can take advantage of the Earth's rotation in achieving orbit, and also the islands stretching southeastward from the Cape were a ready-made chain of stations for our tracking network. Here at Merritt Island, there are more than 88,000 acres of land, of which 3,000 acres are orange groves and 39,000 acres have been left as wildlife preserves. We have wild boar, armadillos, alligators, 13 bald eagles' nests, and more than 200 separate species of birds, and even one reporting of a panther. The long white building on the right is the Manned Spacecraft Operations Building. Here is where we receive and check out the Apollo spacecraft and the lunar modules. And if you ladies think you keep your house clean, well, you should see the inside of this building. The walls, the ceiling, and even the floor is painted white, and they never stop vacuum sweeping. If you're just entering the room, you can wear regular clothes. But before you can go near one of the spacecraft, you have to put on white gloves and a special lint-free gown, like a surgeon would wear in an operating room. They even wash the air that goes inside the spacecraft.
97.2 microns.
Okay, good.
In other buildings, they assemble the scientific, communication, and weather satellites, and the surveyor spacecraft. For you folks who don't know what a surveyor is, that's an unmanned vehicle, and we've already soft-landed 5 on the moon. You've seen the pictures they send back. The last 2 even had claws which dug at the surface, scooped up the soil, and then sent a message back to Earth to tell what kind of soil it was. One reason for all of this is to make sure when our astronauts get to the moon, they got a pretty good idea of what to expect. While all of this is going on, the astronauts are practicing every detail of the flight. To help them do this, they have a trainer that is just like a real spacecraft, where they can simulate everything from the actual blast-off, complete with sound effects, to a docking in space.
Started, and no P11. Okay. T-minus, check that. Roger. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, lift off, clock has started. Roll commence. Roger. Engines tracking. Roger. Roll complete. Roger. Second. No strain, let it go. Roger. Rate change. Roger, rate change, inward venting. Pressure's decreasing. 1 minute. Okay. Oxtep, RCS command. Very good. Command module RCS propellants on. Very good. Roger, switching.
How far do you think that building is? Anyone like to take a guess?
1 mile?
Anybody else?
Closer to 2 miles.
1.5 miles?
That's the vehicle assembly building, and from here it's 5 miles away. Now we're going inside and have a brief rundown on what takes place inside the building. The size of this structure, folks, is again deceptive because we don't have much on our flat terrain to which we can compare it. The best way I know to get the full impression of its height is once you get off of this bus, get your feet firmly planted on the ground, just lean your head back and look straight up. Every once in a while, we'll have someone from New York to remind us that the Empire State Building is just a little bit taller than this. This we have no quarrel with. The Empire State Building about 2 times as high. However, if we cut the Empire State Building up, we could get nearly 4.5 Empire State Buildings in the walls of this one.
How much did it cost?
$160 million, ma'am. The Saturn V rockets you see in this building are not manufactured here. They're made in many different parts of the country, California, Louisiana, Alabama, and brought here by barge in some of the biggest cargo airplanes in the world. Now that you've seen the size of some of our rockets, you can understand why we must have a big building to put them together. 4 rockets, each 36 stories tall, can be assembled here at one time. When this building was under construction, clouds actually formed under the roof and it rained inside. The giant fans have been installed that keep the air moving so this can't happen. Once all the individual stages are checked out, they're moved into place with an overhead crane. The Apollo Saturn rocket consists of 5 sections, each stacked on top of the other. The main booster, the intermediate stages, and finally the payload that contains the spacecraft that will orbit the moon and the lunar module. It will take 2 men down to the surface and then bring them back again. When the rocket is assembled and all the systems checked out again, they open the doors at the side of the building. The doors are made up of sliding panels, each panel weighing 30 tons, and it takes 45 minutes to get them open. Then a large crawler transporter, which is like a giant tractor, is driven into the building and lifts the rocket, platform and all, to take it out to the launch pad. And they usually start early in the morning because it takes all day to get there. It's over 500,000 miles to the moon and back. The first 3 miles of that trip is made right here on the road out to the launch pad. The road out to the pad isn't a divided highway, but 2 road beds filled with loose rock to help cushion the weight. When the crawler transporter is carrying the Mobile platform with the Saturn rocket, there is a total of 18 million pounds moving along at a top speed of 1 mile an hour. When the crawler is empty, it can really scratch off. It can double its speed and go 2 miles an hour. We had 2 gentlemen from Texas out here the other day, and one of them looked at those crawler transporters and said, "Hey, Tall, when we get back to the Big D, for you folks who don't know what the Big D is, that's Dallas. Remind me to buy one of those things. And the other said, what in the world would you do with one of those? And he said, I'd put a blade on it and mow my lawn. Our Saturn V rocket, when it's completely assembled, stands 364 feet tall, weighs 6.2 million pounds, and most of that weight is fuel. When this rocket leaves here, it will lift off with a thrust of more than 7.5 million pounds. This is about 180 million horsepower. That's more horsepower than a string of cars lined bumper to bumper from here to Seattle, Washington. Now from here you can get a good view of the roadway going up the top of the launch pad. Remember, that crawler transporter must traverse this grade with the Saturn V rocket. There are automatic leveling devices to keep the rocket level, so it doesn't become top heavy and fall over. We're test launching these rockets right now in preparation for a launch to the moon. But it's more than a moon rocket, folks. It will do that job and whatever else this country needs to do in space for a long time to come.
Okay, are there any changes to the schedule, Arnie?
Line item 7, which is shown for all day, all of first shift Tuesday. The tank pressurization test will not start until 1300.
When do you want to run the leak check?
First shift Tuesday.
Arnie, you're going to extend that time out for 5 hours by cutting it off in the front end of that LH2 storage tank pressurization.
Negative. The hazardous portion of that test should last only about 4 hours, Ted.
Time check coming up on Apollo Saturn count. T-minus 8 hours. C4. CUSW, verify ESE, LVDA, and the ESE position. CUSW, verified. CLGK, request and execute FT-43. As CLGK, copy, will comply. CLTC, CVTS on 121. TMS. Ground switch open. CLTC, TMS here. Go ahead. Someone here. ATMS. ATMS here. Would you start tape recorders? Tape recorder started. Okay. All personnel terminate all demons and function executors. Go ahead, CVTS. Carry on. You verify you're ready to pick up the con at T-minus 6:30 in about 13 minutes? Stand by. I'll get that information for you. All TC, channel 121.
We're now beginning to pressurize the tanks within the Saturn V vehicle. We'll pressurize all of the tanks in all three stages with gaseous helium. As the pressurization builds up, it's being monitored here in the control center now at 1 minute and 40 seconds and counting. Our status board still indicating all is well. The status board shows instrument units, spacecraft, and all the launch support operations well at this time at 90 seconds and counting. Houston flight now confirms that they are go for the flight, as are all other aspects of the mission. T-minus 1 minute, 16 seconds and counting. The pressurization continuing within the vehicle at this time. We also have a hydraulic commit that will permit the hydraulics to drive the engines in the first stage. Liquid hydrogen tank in the second stage now pressurizing. T-minus 60 seconds and counting. Our status board still shows we're go at this time. T-minus 50 seconds and counting. We have transferred to internal power. The transfer is satisfactory. The 6.2 million pound Saturn V launch vehicle now on its own power at 38 seconds and counting. To repeat, the ignition sequence will start at 8.9 seconds. We'll be looking to lift off at 0. T-minus 30 seconds and counting. We'll count down from starting at T-minus 20. T-minus 25. Stage is reporting ready for launch. T-minus 20. 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4. We have ignition. All engines are running. We have liftoff. We have liftoff at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time.
The ill-fated Hindenburg on her last flight sails over New York. These pictures, made from a Pathé News plane less than 4 hours before the tragedy, show the world's largest airship heading for Lakehurst, New Jersey. Over Newark's famous auto skyway, the airship was hailed by thousands who little dreamed it was their final glimpse of the Hindenburg. Inside the silver envelope are 16 separate gas bags, each filled with hydrogen, a highly inflammable gas. From the ground, you can see the forward control cabin from which the ship is operated. The windows along the side indicate the location of the passengers' quarters, in which many were carried to a flaming death. Approaching Lakehurst, the Hindenburg appeared a conquering giant of the skies, but she proved a puny plaything in the mighty grip of fate. It almost seemed as if fate had set the stage for the horrible tragedy. A graceful craft sailing serenely to her doom. For 3 hours, the dirigible circled the landing field at Lakehurst, New Jersey, dumping more water ballast than ever before in vain efforts to level off. Again she dumps ballast, and a nervous tension grips those who are watching, for this is something unusual. There goes more ballast, but the tail is settling in spite of all that has been dumped. A grim note of impending tragedy. Finally, the landing lines are dropped. These scenes were filmed by Pathé News cameraman William Deek, and you are about to see the pictures he got when the ship exploded. Those aboard leaping for life from a flaming inferno, the actual crash of the Hindenburg, an airship destroyed in less than half a minute. Rushing to the rescue, the heroes of the tragedy dash in, heedless of danger, to help the injured to safety, while others, beyond help, perish in the flames. The blazing aftermath reveals the extent of the disaster, an inferno which became a flaming tomb, a twisted mass of scorched skeleton of what was once a mighty airship. The Hindenburg has gone. She represented man's latest attempt to conquer the Atlantic by air. Her tragedy will not halt the march of progress. From her ashes will arise the knowledge. From her fate, the lesson that will lead to a greater and a better means of mastering the air. If so, her dead will not have died in vain.
German Zeppelin Hindenburg, Queen of the Skies, seen here from a universal newsreel camera plane as it sped over New York to its tragic end at Lakehurst, New Jersey, now lies at the Naval Air Station a twisted mass of metal. Shortly after these pictures were taken, showing the great Skyliner saluting the millions watching it from below on its first trip of the season, the huge craft exploded while docking and blazed to a fiery end, taking the lives of almost half its 99 passengers and crew. Hours late on its trip from Hamburg because of headwinds, the Zeppelin had to ride out a thunderstorm along the Jersey coast before heading for the air station and nosing its way to the mooring mast. The wind is bad and the docking is a ticklish one, but it's all a thrill for the crowd of happy passengers eager to land after their transoceanic trip. Slowly the big ship warps in and the ground crews rush for the mooring lines. In another 10 minutes or so, the great aircraft would have been snugly docked. But as the passengers crowded the windows to watch, a roar and a burst of flame near the big tail fins turned the ship into a flaming inferno. Passengers and crew, the fortunate among them, fell or jumped and were dragged to safety before the fiery furnace took their lives. Heroic work by Navy and Army men risking their lives around the white-hot skeleton snatched more than one dazed and half-burned passenger from the blazing wreckage. But for the most of those trapped in the incandescent tangle, there was no hope. It's the greatest of miracles that anyone came out of the disaster alive. 7 million cubic feet of inflammable hydrogen gas blazed up in less than a minute. The hundreds of tons of fuel oil burns for an hour or more, with its dense black smoke making a pall over the tragic scene. In all the history of air disasters, this is the worst, the most terrible. Hailed as the luxury liner of the air, the Hindenburg's horrible end has shocked the entire world. The pride of the skies reaches its journey's end.
A twisted, tangled mass of seared girders and bits of blackened fabric are all that remains of the proud luxury airliner Hindenburg that lies at the Lakehurst Naval Station. The death list is now 35, with 10, including Captain Pruss, still on the critical list. With the next morning's first light, a naval inspection board headed by Captain Haynes inspects the wreckage, as others search the still smoking ruins for a possible clue that might yield a key to the mysterious disaster. The remains of the Hindenburg will not be moved until the arrival of Germany's expert, Dr. Hugo Eckener, who heads a commission that will conduct an investigation simultaneously with the Department of Commerce. German Ambassador Hans Luther was the first Reich observer to arrive, visiting the injured at the hospital in nearby Lakewood, but refusing to comment on anything connected with the disaster. As soon as is possible, the injured who can be moved are carried to ambulances for transfer to New York, 60 miles away, so as to receive everything that medical science can offer. Swathed in bandages, they may be more than thankful for their miraculous escape from the blazing inferno of the Hindenburg. Members of the crew not seriously injured were housed in the officers' mess at the naval station. 13-year-old Werner Franz, a cabin boy, is the youngest survivor who will appear before the Department of Commerce Investigation Board that calls Commander Rosendahl, head of the naval station, as first witness. But experts believe the exact cause of the greatest of air disasters will never be known. Over the Hindenburg will loom a question mark that can never be forgotten.
How did this tragedy happen to the Hindenburg? The world wants to know. And the highest United States authorities are driving to learn why 20 died at the very instant of landing the world's greatest airship. Here is the end of the first trip of 1937, end of all things for the Hindenburg, last of her 21 American voyages. Now at twilight comes the dreadful end. She is over Lakehurst, nosing in as on so many trips before. Nearly 50 laughing passengers are at the windows from which they have just looked down on millions watching from New York. There's nothing wrong. The ship levels off, drops her water ballast. The ground crew is ready underneath. It's all right, as it has always been all right. She drops her line. This voyage is over, and tonight she is going back to Germany. And then... And so perishes the great Hindenburg at the home port of the vanished Shenandoah, the Akron, and the Macon.
It was just a year ago that New Yorkers first beheld the silvery spectacle of Germany's luxury airliner Hindenburg, soaring majestically past Manhattan skyline, having spanned the North Atlantic in the record-shattering time of 61.5 hours from its hangar at Friedrichshafen to its American port of call at Lakehurst, New Jersey. Today, with veteran Captain Ernest Lehman aboard in an advisory capacity, the greatest lighter-than aircraft ever built nears the completion of her 21st Atlantic crossing, her first of this year. Encountering storms and headwinds during this ill-fated voyage, the giant dirigible noses toward the Lakehurst mooring mast today, having just ridden out a brief electrical disturbance, and now that the wind has subsided, she releases ballast, preliminary to easing her vast hulk into the hands of the Navy's ground crew, awaiting the landing lines by which she is gently drawn to earth. Her 50 passengers impatient, eager to arrive at a journey's end. Scarcely 300 feet above the ground now, portholes open, landing lines are thrown. Hovering so close to Earth, one is impressed by her mammoth size, her great framework encasing 7 million cubic feet of highly inflammable hydrogen. Careful maneuvering by expert hands have all but warped her into the hangar. Motors are idling. All seem ship-shape to the scurrying crew below, when suddenly... less time than it takes to tell, the scene is one of horror as the ship has slowly sagged to earth and the flames have enveloped the entire structure. Many of those aboard having jumped to escape cremation. Estimate of its toll on human life stands at 50 dead, with many of the 50 persons pulled from the flames not expected to live. A nightmare 20 seconds. Incredible it seems that the specter of death could stalk so quickly, so completely. For here in this appalling tragedy is written the worst disaster in aviation history.
It's a new era of pioneers, star sailors, and adventurers.
We're going beyond anywhere we ever went for Apollo.
Splashdown, Orion, back on Earth.
And there's a lot more coming.
Our destiny is always to go and see what's further and what's next.
They're actually metal is being bent, shaped, formed to build the things that we're going to use.
Artemis is no longer some far-fetched dream. This is reality.
NASA at a historic inflection point, poised to begin the most significant series of science and human exploration missions in over a generation.
Astronauts will live and work in deep space and will develop the science and technology to send the first humans to Mars.
I'm really looking forward to all the science we will conduct on the moon. The samples we'll bring back, the knowledge we'll gain from understanding the lunar environment better than we ever have before.
The more nations and companies at the moon, the more we learn, increasing our capabilities while strengthening things right here on Earth.
We are going to the moon to learn how to live on other planets for the benefit of all.
Let's go.
And for more NASA videos, hit subscribe.
Hello, I'm Sunny Williams. I'm up here on the International Space Station. Now, I want to say where we are. So right now, we're in the Japanese laboratory. It's one laboratory out of many here on the International Space Station. It's actually on the left-hand side. If I was the International Space Station and I was flying through space like this, my left hand would be where the Japanese laboratory is. So now again, we're on the right-hand side, all the way on the right of the International Space Station. This is Columbus, the European module. It has science experiments all over. You could see it looks a little bit crowded. And here we do a lot of our medical experiments. So this is Node 2. This is a really cool module. Of course, most of these modules you'll see they have 4 sides and they're put together. That way we could sort of work on a flat plane, either a wall, a floor, another wall, or the ceiling. But you know, again, all you have to do is turn yourself and your reference changes. The reason I'm bringing that up is because this is where 4 out of 6 of us sleep. And so people always ask about sleeping in space. Do you lie down? Are you in a bed? Not really, because it doesn't matter. You don't really have the sensation of lying down. You just sit in your sleeping bag. So here's one sleep station right here. I'm going in right now. You can follow me if you want. So I'm inside. It's sort of like a little phone booth, but it's pretty comfy. I've got a sleeping bag right here that we sleep in, so we don't have sort of like a little bit of a cover. We don't fly all over the place. But you know, you can sleep in any orientation. I have it sleeping, feeling like I'm standing up right now, but like you saw, I'm on the floor. But it doesn't matter if I turn over and I sleep upside down. I can't have it, I don't have any sensation in my head that tells me that I'm upside down, so it really doesn't matter. The sleep station is also like a little office. We've got a computer in here. As you can see, we've got a couple little toys. I've got some books. I've got some clothes and other things that make it sort of like home. I'm coming out. And just for reference, that's one sleep station. This one's another, right here. There's one on the ceiling, if you want to call it, right here. And then there's a 4th on the other wall over here. So all of us sleep in a little bit of a circle. All right, come on back. There's more to show you. In the U.S. laboratory. Again, this is a laboratory with science experience on all of the walls here, all sorts of stuff that we do. And one of the things we also do is we exercise. We have some exercise equipment on board the space station. We need to do that because we lose bone density and muscle mass while we're up here, and that's a result of not having to fight against gravity. So how we keep ourselves in shape are with a bike, a treadmill, and a weightlifting machine. This is the bike. You notice the clipped pedals. So all you need to do is actually clip your feet in, and then you can start pedaling. You don't need a seat because you don't sit down. Actually, I haven't sat down for 6 months now, so you don't need any type of seat. Just make sure you're held in with your pedals. You probably see that the bike bounces around a little bit. As I move it, it's not steady and held to the wall firmly. And the reason for that is the space station is pretty big. You saw that there's also solar arrays on the space station. If we start putting any forces into the space station, it's going to make those solar arrays bounce around a little bit. So to prevent that, the machines bounce around a little bit, move around a little bit, and that way we don't put any forces onto the structure of the spacecraft out to the solar arrays. All right, a little farther on. Come on. here's a pretty cool place. This is sort of like in your house where everybody meets in the morning. After you wash your face, brush your teeth, you want to find something for breakfast. And this is our kitchen. You might notice there's all sorts of foods here. It's like opening the refrigerator. You got all your different stuff that you want to have: drinks, meats, eggs, vegetables, cereals, bread, snacks, and that's a good place. That's where you find all the candy. Side dishes, and then some little power bars just in case. So we have all this type of food. Some of it is dehydrated, and so we have to hydrate it, fill it up with water. Some of it is all ready-made, and then all we have to do is heat it up. So something like this, I'm pulling out barbecued beef brisket. Pretty yummy. Not only is this food made in the U.S., but we also have food here from Japan. We've got Russian food. As you can see, all these red containers are filled with food that's from Russia. And then we get some of our specialty stuff, some things that we like, some of our favorite stuff that your family can send up. In fact, I like fluffernutters, and so I got sent up some fluff so I could make my fluffernutter with peanut butter. So you have a lot of food up here, no problems. I'm here with my two buddies in the airlock. Actually, these are two spacesuits that are ready, primed up to go outside, as we call it, to go do a spacewalk in case we have to do anything outside. Some of the things we do outside are just like inside, repairs. We have a lot of electrical boxes and machinery and solar arrays, in fact, that I talked about earlier, that are outside, and sometimes they don't work quite right. Remember, space is really cold and really hot, and it's also the vacuum of space with no pressure, and so some of the equipment doesn't work well all the time. So we might have to go out and do a spacewalk. Right behind me is actually the hatch that you go out into space, and right now we have it filled up with a couple other spacesuits because we've got 4 of them up here and some of our tools. But right behind here is the hatch in which you actually go right outside into the vacuum of space. The spacesuit is pretty big, as you can see. It's like being a football player. Part of the reason it's so big and bulky is because of this backside, this backpack. It's like going on a hike with a backpack, but the backpack and the suit weighs about 300 pounds. Luckily, in space, nothing really weighs anything, so you don't feel that it's so heavy. But we need to have such a big suit because that guy back there is essentially the heart of the spacecraft. I call this actually a spacecraft. It has all the oxygen for you. It has all the carbon dioxide removal system for you. It also has a heating and cooling system to make sure to regulate our body temperatures while we're outside. It also has a computer, so it tells you on a display here if there's anything that's going wrong with the suit, if we're running out of oxygen, if we have too much carbon dioxide, or any type of electrical problem. So it's a pretty awesome little spacecraft, and actually got to go out, use my little spacecraft a couple times, and it worked like a charm. Lucky that it works very nice. You might want to see what the helmet looks like. It's pretty cool too. We don't usually go out like this, so you usually can see when the helmet's open. So you can see what it looks like inside. Somebody's little head would be inside of here. So you can see, you can turn your head all the way around while you're inside of there, but the helmet stays still. So that's determines your how far you could see. And it's usually pretty sunny out there, so we have to wear our sunglasses, and this is our sunglasses right here, which make you look pretty cool. Here we are at the throne. This is awesome. You might see the little, you might have noticed the little moon on the outside. This is our orbital outhouse right here. And of course, it serves for 2 functions. Number 2, right here. I'll show you. But you see it's pretty small, so you have to have pretty good aim, and you be ready to make sure things get let go the right direction. And it smells a little bit, so I'm closing it up. And that's, of course, for number 2. And this guy right here is for number 1. So they're sort of two slightly separate functions, but you can do a little, essentially both, by hanging on right here and doing number 1 and number 2. I might add it's color coded so you really don't get it mixed up, which is nice. This is yellows for number 1. And also there's a selection of paper. People always ask about toilet paper. What do you do with toilet paper? What kind of toilet paper do you have? We have gloves just because sometimes it does get messy. We have some Russian wipes, which are a little bit coarse if you like the coarse type of toilet paper. We have some nice tissues, which are nice and soft if you like soft toilet paper. We have Huggies, just for any cleanup. You know, we were all babies once, and this sort of helps. And then if things get really out of control, we have disinfectant wipes, just to make sure we clean up here. Because, you know, just like the water I showed you, the number 1 stuff can sort of go all over the place if you don't aim correctly. And did I mention both of these have a little bit of suction, so they should keep things going in the right direction. But like I said, sometimes things get a little out of control if you are out of control yourself flying around. So we have lots of protective stuff. And of course, you do have your privacy. There's a little door, so other people know that you're in there. Now, I'm going to take you to one of the coolest places on the space station. It's like a glass-bottom boat. This is the cupola. It sticks down below the space station. It's one of those places you find yourself hanging out in all the time because all you want to do is look back at our planet. I think some questions I had were about what do you do in your free time? And you can't help but want to just come to the cupola and look outside as much as you can. And a lot of folks, I play this game with myself about where we're flying over the Earth. I try to come in here and just guess. After being here for a little while, you can sort of figure it out. You can tell different cloud types over different continents. You can tell different soil types over different continents. So let's see. And then, of course, there's a lot of ocean. So usually we're over the ocean at first glance. I will tell you in just a moment where we are. There we go. So right now we are right over Africa. It's a little bit cloudy, as you can tell, but we're right over the continent of Africa. Hey, what's that? I think that's a Soyuz spacecraft. That's the spacecraft that's taken us home to planet Earth today. Oh my gosh, we might have to go take a look at that. That's pretty cool. It's a little bit smaller than the rest of the spacecraft, the space station, so you'll see if we go there, it'll be a little bit more crammed. But we're going, you can look all the way back to the back of the spacecraft, which is where the Russian segment is, and then you could look all the way forward to the front of the spacecraft, where the Japanese laboratory, the European laboratory, and the American laboratory. Hey, one thing I didn't show you, or I talked about but I didn't show you, was the exercise, another piece of exercise device. This is what we call the ARED, and with this you can lift weights based on vacuum in these cylinders, just like you do at home at a gym. For example, if I wanted to do a squat, I could do it like this. Oops. I should need some weight on this thing. I'm not lifting with anything, so it's too easy. One of the cool things you could do things that you can't do at home. For example, single leg squats with just one leg, because the other leg, you won't fall over. So all sorts of stuff. You can also do bench press. We have a bench that we could add on here, so you can work on your beach muscles. All right. I showed you the Soyuz. Let's go check it out. Hey, Aki, what are you doing down there?
Crashing things.
This is one of the cool things about space, too. It sort of looks like there's a big old hole here, but you don't even think twice about it. You could just jump over the hole, or if you want, you can go jump into the hole. I'm coming down. Woo! Then you can come right back up again, like Superman. Woo! We're lucky we have a really cool big space station that you can fly around in. That's actually called the PMM. You might have saw it out the window. It's a big silver canister. What's really great about that is it's essentially our closet in our pantry or whatever you want to call it. We have extra food down there. We have extra clothes. We actually throw the trash out down there. So it's nice and organized, and we have all of our stuff that we need while we're working in all these other modules all stowed in this location down here. And it's a lot of fun to play in. Now that's a lot bigger than the Soyuz. Oh, one thing we need to show you is our patches here. While we've been up here, we've been Expedition 32 first, and then just recently we're leaving. We were Expedition 33. And there's all the crew members who are up here with us right now. Myself, Yuri Malenchenko, Aki Hoshidi, if you can read Japanese, Yevgeny Turelkin, if you can read Russian, Oleg Novinsky, and Kevin Ford, who just took over as the commander of the space station and will be the commander for the next couple months. And he, by the way, is behind the camera right now. So you can say, hi, Kevin. So we're going into the Russian segment. Be ready. You don't need a passport either. It goes a lot farther back than this. We'll go take a trip and say hello to the boys down there in just a minute. Well, let's do that first, actually, and then we'll go down to the Soyuz at the very end. This is Yevgeny. Hi. Doing a little tour. This is the FGB, and what's cool about this module, it is actually the very first piece of the space station that came up in 1998. The space station has been around for about now manned for 12 years, but it's been up in space for about 14 years. And this was the very first. It is like the Russians' PMM. It has a lot of storage, as you can see. So here we are in the heart of the space station, really. This is the service module. This is the central post. In case we had any problems, I know a couple of the questions were about what type of things do you have to worry about. And some of the things we have to worry about in space are fire. If we had a fire, if we had a depressurization, like we were hit by a micrometeorite and it made a hole, or if we had some type of toxic atmosphere. We use ammonia for our radiator, so there is a possibility that ammonia could come into the vehicle, and then it would be bad for all of us. If we have any of those problems, we come right here, which we call the central post. It is the main heart of the space station. It was also the first computers that came up here that ran the space station. And so behind this wall right here are these main computers. So we gather here as a group of 3 or 6 and then figure out how we're going to either fight the fire, patch the hole, or solve the toxic spill. And what's cool about this module, of course, it's the central post. It also has great windows right down toward Earth. It has controls to fly in visiting spacecraft if they need some assistance right here. It has Russian computers as well as American computers to help us control anything we need to on the space station. It's a couple of our crewmates back there, Oleg Novinsky on the right and Yuri Malenchenko on the left. And there's also a second bathroom here, which is really cool because 6 of us going to one bathroom is really tough. And so there's one bathroom here and one bathroom on the other side where I showed you. And you can probably see on the wall behind Oleg and Yuri some of the heroes of the space program. Sergei Korolev, who was a chief designer of putting men into space, and of course on the right-hand side, Yuri Gagarin, the first man to go into space. So just reminds us of our roots. going to stop here just for a quick second. You can see on the Russian spacecraft there's also other modules that stick out, down, and above. Right here is, let's see, I'm trying to be oriented. That's a place where we do spacewalks from for the Russian side. There's Russian spacesuits in here, and also a visiting vehicle which brought fruits and vegetables and becomes a trash container when we undock. Up on this side is also a future place where they're going to do spacewalks from, and connected to it is Kevin's, Oleg's, and Yevgeny's Soyuz spacecraft. And now let's go see ours. О, извините.
No problem.
Это пробка. Coming down. Tricky getting in here. This is the docking probe right here, this big thing. This helps us connect to the spacecraft. This probe actually sticks into this cone, and that's how the spacecraft, our Soyuz, becomes connected to the ISS initially. That is then replaced by clamps, which are around here, that will allow the two spacecraft to be stuck together. And then you can remove the probe and the cone. You okay? All right, so here we are in the Soyuz. This is what we call the BEO, the living compartment, bytovoy otsek in Russian. It also has a little bathroom. It's not as good as the other bathrooms, so we try not to use it too much. It has drinking water in it if we need something to drink. And then, of course, it's filled up with a lot of cargo for us. Bringing up and also bringing back down. It has a second purpose when it comes back to Earth. It serves as a garbage container. During the descent, we'll get rid of this area right here, and everything that's in it will just burn up as it's coming into the atmosphere, so that way we can get rid of a little bit of trash. But the main area where we were on launch and where we're going to be on descent is down here, because we're not part of the trash, so we're in a safe place. So we're in the descent module, SA. It's a little small, but you can get in. Not sure how well you could see in here. Hold on for a second. I'm going to turn it up this way, just so you could see the hatch, and you could see Kevin. It's a little bit small, but we'll come in and show you around. Just starting to get ready. We're preparing a couple days ago for our ride home. It's a little bit squishy, but everybody asks, how do you sit in the Soyuz? And you sort of sit in your seat like this. The seat is molded to your body, and so you can just sort of squish in here and be pretty relaxed. Everybody has a handmade seat for them. And then, of course, there's a control panel, and that's where we do most of our actions and work right here. There's hand controllers which you can fly the vehicle with, and there's a stick right here primarily used for communications when we're trying to talk to the ground. So 3 of us fit in here. Like I said, it's a little squishy, but somehow it seems like we all managed to get in here and fit pretty well, and it's a pretty safe ride home. You're probably wondering what's all this junk behind us? Well, it's all of our parachute, first of all, and then it's all of our survival gear, just in case we end up landing in some strange place on the planet and nobody's there to rescue us right away. We have all sorts of survival gear with us, keeping us safe in here. So they've pretty much thought of everything. And we'll be home on the planet within the next 12 hours. Pretty shocking.
Worst of all stupid astronaut tricks.
It's as fun as you think it would be, only better. I think I told my wife that I thought it was a burrito of awesomeness smothered in awesome sauce, because I don't have a very big vocabulary, so I tried to use the biggest, most impactful words I could.
Everybody's a superhero. You're not floating, you're flying.
So the International Space Station, being only 250 miles above Earth, we call it the kind of the proving ground for a lot of science. It is a national orbiting laboratory for the United States, and we do have hundreds of science experiments going on at any time.
We're doing this amazing science up there. It is also absolutely the most wonderful observatory. And certainly for an Earth-facing observatory, the cupola module, this big bay window, you know, that we have facing Earth, is the place to be.
I got visited by 3 space shuttles. Several of the crew members never looked outside the cupola before. I would bring them one at a time to the cupola, tell them to close their eyes, open up all the windows, the shutters on the windows, and then tell them to open up their eyes.
Cerebrally, I knew that this was going to be a life-changing experience. I knew that the view was going to be amazing.
And I will never forget that sight. The thin blue line of the atmosphere, the curve of the horizon, and that's when it became real. Really, at a gut level, I'm actually in space. We are on orbit. This is not a sim.
This is my eyes looking through glass at Earth from space. It was almost overwhelming.
And so I think it's kind of overload for your brain and processing all of that at once, because it just isn't used to that.
You know, it's really hard to describe something like that, because it's not just cerebral, it's emotional, it's kind of all-encompassing. My heart was racing, you couldn't wipe the smile off of my face. It was really amazing.
I just was, you know, feeling something as I was staring at this view of the whole thing, and it moved me to tears unknowingly. So.
In that instant, when you're overwhelmed with that vista, when your eyes see nothing but the beauty of the Earth, every single crew member that I brought in there for that exposure cried. It is heart-stopping. It is soul-pounding. It is breathtaking.
I mean, it was ridiculous. I'd never imagined in my entire life getting to see something that beautiful. It was so foreign for the human mind to look at that, to see the Earth highlighted that way.
Well, I don't think anything prepares you for how crystal clear it is. You know, I knew the colors, but they just seemed different to me. They seemed more vibrant, more translucent.
I've never seen those colors here on Earth. These pearlescent yellows and peaches that form when you're looking at a body of water with the sun angle. It's just amazing.
I just took a pencil and I drew like 15 curved lines, and I just wrote light blue, darker blue, pink, purple, dark purple, all the way down to the surface of the Earth at sunset, because the scale of looking at a sun refracting through the atmosphere, it blew me away, okay? And no picture captures that. There's no high enough dynamic range of a photo to capture what the human can see.
How in the world am I gonna describe this? There's no words. There's no picture I could take to do it justice. There's no watercolors that I could put on paper to come close to the vividness, the ever-changing picture that I see staring at this planet.
And I think that's the challenge of really trying to express just what ran through my mind when I'd look out there, because my mind would just race.
It's like a work of art out the window there, and it surprises you, every time you look at it. One of the most impressive things was watching thunderstorms, storm activity moving around the planet.
You can see its path propagating around, and you have these big flashes all over the place.
This one storm covering all the U.S. and lightning flashing off all over, nonstop.
It's like watching neurons firing in a brain. These tentacles of light that are just connecting and traveling. Yeah, it might be starting over Florida, but it's like moving across the ocean to Africa as far as you can see. And that was, I remember floating there just thinking about, oh my gosh, everything is connected.
We got to see some interesting things up there. One was Hurricane Dorian, a Category 5 hurricane with such a well-formed eye. When you look down at it, flying over in the station, it doesn't even look like it's moving, but you know the power that's at the center of that storm and what havoc that storm is wreaking on everybody on the ground.
You look at it in terror, really, because you know all the people that are endangered underneath, but just the immensity of power that Mother Nature brings.
A hurricane, a thunderstorm, everywhere you look, there is the environment doing something crazy. So we're coming up over Brazil, about to go across into the Atlantic Ocean, and looking out on the horizon, I saw looked kind of brown. I'd never seen that really from the space station, and I instantly, what did I think? Human interaction pollution, for sure. It's just awful looking, it's terrible. But as we went over the Atlantic, it kind of got thicker and thicker and thicker. It was a sandstorm in the Sahara Desert, blowing this huge plume of sand up into the atmosphere, crossing the Atlantic Ocean and coming down in Brazil. That is crazy. If that doesn't change the way you think about the planet, absolutely nothing will.
What struck me was when we looked at natural disasters, you see a flood, and you really can't pick out where they are on Earth. But when you see it from space, you realize that the effects of these natural disasters really hit everybody equally. And it really gives you this perspective that, first of all, we're all in this together, and that the world is very small.
What has always struck me every time I went there is how beautiful the Earth is, how fragile it looks, how alive it obviously is with the clouds, the water. It's like it's breathing.
When you first look at Earth, you may say, wow, that's a continent. And then you look at it again the next day and you say, wow, there are mountain ranges. And then you look at it again the next day and it's like, oh, I can see synclines and anticlines in the geologic structure.
You could see the Nile River and the Nile Delta so clearly, the Red Sea, and for me that was just amazing to look down. You could see the Jordan River, the Sea of Galilee, the Dead Sea, and I was just thinking, this is where all this took place.
The color palette is hard to compare. All these reds and oranges, and so the dunes all over in Central Africa and in Saudi Arabia, you have these so many different textures.
And you can almost pick out where you are over the Earth because Australia's tans are different than African tans.
Every piece of the Earth has its own tone, if you want. So you become very acquainted with the Earth from a big picture point of view.
And you saw just the beauty of the landscape and the mountains and the deserts, and you start to think of how they were formed. You realize just how special the place we are is, and you feel that connection.
So when you look at the Earth from that vantage point, I know others have said this, you don't see the borders. You don't see political borders, you hardly see geographical borders.
We're so used to looking at maps or globes. In low Earth orbit, you don't see a globe. And from no distance do you see the different different colors for countries so that it makes them easy to distinguish.
I was looking for all the little pink and green countries when I was looking at Earth. Where's Uganda? It's supposed to be pink on the atlas.
You know, you don't see those geopolitical boundaries, all of the man-made boundaries that we've imposed upon ourselves as humans. You don't see any of that from space.
It's just you and your team, and you're trying to make an impact on us evolving into something more. You forget about the politics, you forget about daily life that you know, plagues us here on the ground, that colors our perceptions because you're insulated from it.
And you just feel this sense of commonality more, and something that unites us all, and just that we're all human.
Flying over Africa in the daytime with the intense sunlight so much of the time, you don't really see much detail. It's so bright. But at night, when it's illuminated by starlight or moonlight, you really see a lot, and it's just fascinating.
And you don't quite see the same texture, but you see mankind's influence on the planet.
You get these beautiful, you know, twinkly city lights.
And they represent human sprawl, which isn't necessarily bad, but it is incredibly beautiful from space.
I love looking at the atmosphere at night when you have that air glow, and sometimes it was a bit green, and then you have the aurora dancing around.
And we were flying into this astonishing aurora, this rippling, pulsing river of green that's down below us, the red that is stretching up to our altitude. It's like, you know, it was just breathtaking.
Auroras, the presence of humans at night, it's obvious with the lights. But it's the death around the Earth that's startling. How this beautiful, shining oasis of life is there naked in the middle of pitch black death, the vacuum of space.
Definitely look up and see the stars like you have never seen them before.
Hello, I'm sorry.
The oasis of life is there naked in the middle of pitch black death, the vacuum of space.
Definitely look up and see the stars like you have never seen them before. I mean, the Milky Way is just stunning.
There's many things in the cosmos to gaze at it. For example, the Magellanic Clouds. Those show up really bright and vivid because you don't have atmospheric scattering. You can see Andromeda, the spiral galaxy of Andromeda.
Of course, the lights don't flicker. They're steady because they're not coming through the dust and coming through the atmosphere. And then as you really adjust, you start to sense the very subtle colors that are in the stars. A little bit of reddish, a little bit of bluish, blue-white.
Just all the colors and the light come out, you know, in that depth of space as well.
I could all of a sudden detect depth. Now, I couldn't tell you how much, but it's light years, right? And it's like, whoa, I can somehow tell that star is closer than that star. And that was something that knocked my socks off, and I thought, nobody told me about this.
I don't think I had thought before going up there about how many stars you see, you know, the density of stars.
You see so many stars, it becomes hard to pick out constellations. People ask if there's aliens, and I'm like, of course there are aliens. Look at all those stars. There's gotta be.
It's just so vast and infinite. I don't know what else to say about that.
I remember using like the 800mm lens and just really zooming into places. And you know, you still can't see people walking around or anything, but you see impacts of things. And you realize that a lot of times we have to pull way back. You know, you have to pull way back and see the big picture of it.
You realize just how small you are, because you at times struggle to find evidence of human activity down there. You can go over massive swaths of the Earth and not see a trace of any human impact. Or you can go over other swaths and you can see dramatic impact.
Frequently in the summertime, there's a lot of fires in Africa. You see all of those plumes of smoke heading west across the Atlantic.
You fly over South America and you see, widespread deforestation, and you know the impact that that has. You can almost get a sense of the balance of, how nature is trying to balance all the inputs and the outputs and have a stable system. And you can see our effect on it.
To me, it started to make me understand that everything is connected. What is happening in the ocean over here can affect what is happening on land over here. It's just all one being, thing, and it's all interconnected.
You can see combat. I mean, we were two countries were at war, and you could very easily see missiles being shot. They just looked like little tiny traces of light. You can see all that stuff. So to me, I didn't see one unified human civilization. You certainly see one unified planet cruising around the sun, and that is a unique perspective.
So during my time on the space station, I had the chance to do a spacewalk, put on a spacesuit and go outside. And that's a very special experience for any astronaut.
You're inside the space station or the shuttle, and now you put on a suit and go outside. It's like there is an elevation and risk when you do that, but it is a bit thrilling.
Spacewalks always seem to be very busy and task-focused events where I got to do this and I got to move over here and do this,
and then you just have to not think about where you are. Just concentrate on getting the job done. What's the big picture?
Rarely did you have a minute where you could just say, just take a minute and enjoy the view. But there were those minutes every once in a while. And the view from outside the spacecraft, with that full panoramic vision through your helmet visor, was just incredible.
It's a very disturbing view, looking down about 240 miles at the Earth going by at 17,000 miles an hour. It's like, oh boy.
I just watched the Earth going by below me, and I only had this, thin visor separating me from a very unsurvivable atmosphere. And my feet were dangling. I remember, not just through my visor, but looking down and you just see feet and then Earth, and you're holding onto the space station. And it was just incredible. Everything looked so large.
The colors are even more vibrant, and I think also just mentally, psychologically realizing that there's nothing between the vacuum of space except for this spacesuit and your visor.
I remember thinking that coming out, like that the world would just open up around me, and the view for some reason seems bigger than what you have when you're looking through the windows of a spacecraft.
It wasn't like Earth is over there. It wasn't small. It was like it took up your entire, visor and all as far as you could see, and just watching it come over Earth and just how large Earth was from our perspective.
But oh my gosh, you see Earth and you see your glowing station around you, and you realize, okay, I gotta stop looking at this stuff because it becomes a distraction to the work that you're doing out there.
So I always kid those astronauts that don't do the spacewalks. I said the view from inside here through this flat window is pretty good. The view from outside is just amazing.
And the great thing about living on Space Station, I loved every minute of it. I had a countdown going, but it was, oh no, I only have 2 months left.
All right, one last look at the Earth. This is some good news. The Earth is still beautiful. An Earth in crisis is still an Earth worth returning to.
Life seems extremely busy, and you know, the days start flying by, and before you know it, it's over.
As it drew to a close, I think I was more feeling as though, did you do enough to capture this so that you can share it when you get home? And so that you can light those fires in people as you go around and talk about this and try to, you know, ignite the passion in kids just like I had ignited for me as a kid.
Back on the ground, and somebody else is doing the job up there now. It makes you feel like, you know, this is a really big thing that we're a part of, and just, you know, I'm fortunate to play my part.
It is the fact that going to space and seeing the Earth from that vantage point has a life-changing effect on most of us.
It takes a lot of energy to describe what it's like up there, because there's so much of your emotion built into it.
I think the best way to describe it is that your viewpoint changes, that you can look at the same thing, but it changes the lens through which you see it.
And that acute concrete realization that we belong to Earth and not vice versa, it's kind of a mental shift to see that we just nowhere else we could go.
I think if you're not a conservationist before you go to space, you're at least partly a conservationist when you come back, because when you see how thin that atmosphere is, that protective layer that we have here, you think, wow, we really have to take care of this because it does look so fragile from space.
I think I felt that need to protect it even before leaving it, but it definitely does resonate even more loudly now, having seen it myself, and how stunning and beautiful it is. All of those unique ecosystems, everything's connected, the land masses and the ocean masses and the atmosphere, and we are all in it together. We are all down there. And so I think that's the most important thing that I would encourage people to think about, that perspective.
I think you get a sense of preservation of I don't want this to go away, and I don't want to be the only one to see this. And there are so many people that need to see it, but only a handful will in this lifetime.
You know, I remember coming back from all my missions with that sense that, you know, we're all connected, we're all people. And I thought about, why is it that we do have conflicts? What is that separates us from one another?
If you could get 7 billion people to go up there and look down for just even 30 seconds, you would change them, all of them, forever. They wouldn't all come back and be friends. They wouldn't all come back and tear down border walls and things like that. But you would change all of them, and you would change them all for the better, and they would have a different view of the planet.
I think if people that can lift their eyes up and see the bigger picture, whether it's from orbit or even just understanding the different sides, maybe spending more time listening, you know, rather than shouting.
And that's what I want people to find. I absolutely found that in the experience I had in space, in the simple facts of us living on a planet and all being Earthlings, and the only border that matters is that thin blue line.
boosters in ignition. And liftoff of Artemis 1.
At NASA, we build on the amazing legacy our workforce has created to guide us where we want to go. The NASA family fuels innovation and helps us make discoveries that will change the world as we know it. We also understand that diversity drives innovation, and we're committed to strengthening our agency by prioritizing diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility through our DEIA strategic plan and our equity action plan. And together, we are building the STEM pipeline of the future to continue making history and enabling the Artemis generation to make this important work its own.
Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event on MPC?
On MPC, I'm ready as well.
CBS, The Talk. This is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is The Talk. How do you hear me?
I hear you loud and clear. How may?
We hear you loud and clear. Excellent.
Welcome to the International Space Station.
Thank you.
I've been here, but I've been there before. Just kidding.
Getting by. Here we go. Welcome back to The Talk. Today we have a special treat. We're about to meet a mom whose devotion, let's just say, reaches beyond the stratosphere. Katie Coleman is a NASA astronaut and a mother of two, and she joins us now from the International Space Station. Hello, Katie.
Hello.
This is so cool, isn't it? Hey, Katie, I want to
welcome
ask
aboard
you a
the space
question.
station.
This is Leah. Look at this.
Wow.
Are you going to be okay, or? There's a delay, too, so we got to take that into consideration. Katie, can you hear me?
You know, we Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I can hear you. Oh, good. Okay, well, I'm not the brightest person, so please don't try to say smart things when you're talking to me, but when you're talking to Sarah and Julie, you can say, you know, things that have to do with what you're doing. I want to know about your day-to-day. Like, take me through, like, an average day for you. You have your own room, you get up, what do? Do you shower? Do you have a chef? What goes on up there?
You know, we get up in the morning, brush our teeth, eat breakfast, just like everybody else, except that everything we do, we're weightless, and all the things we're doing it with are weightless as well. So you start off with that teeth brushing thing, and I have to say, you know, spitting, that's going to be a problem. So we swallow our toothpaste, and the day goes weightless from there.
And then what is your average work day? Is it like a real 8-hour day, or? And then what do you guys do? You sit around looking out the windows? Or what do you guys do? This is what I want to know.
You know, seriously, we live to look out the windows because it is simply amazing to look out. And, you know, every day is different looking down at the Earth. It depends on the weather. It depends on the lighting. I'm learning geography hand over foot. And so we live to look out the window. But I will say that most of our work is inside, you know, here in the space station. I'm in the Japanese part of the space station. It's the module that they built for experiments. We have a European module. We have a Russian section, a United States section. The Canadians built the arm. It's a big, big international venture. And every day, actually the day begins the night before because I look at the schedule, see what I'm going to do, and I study up and just try to understand what experiments I'm going to do. And I could actually show you one of them. One of them's coming right at me right now.
Wow. So cool. What's that?
So before I show you this, let me just show you something else. Oops. It's going to come back to me, okay? I want to show you why we do these experiments, and that is because this is a bag of water, okay? And I'm squeezing. Let's see. So it's a brand new bag of water, and so my straw was a little crimped there. And I'm going to come a little closer, and you can see this giant blob of water. And we're getting to see in space, what do liquids really, really want to do?
Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. So I'm curious, because I know you have kids at home. How do you stay close to your kids? Oh, wow. Amazing. Yeah. I'm just curious how you stay close to your kids while you're in space.
Well, one of the ways that we stay close is I try to keep him really interested in what I'm doing, and I'm shaking up our fluids experiments so you can kind of see, you know, what a real experiment looks like, and not just playing with our water drops, but understanding how fluids behave in space. Well, it has to do with everything we do at home. And everything that we wear, everything that is in our house that is made with a process of something flowing through a pipe, we need to understand what liquids do. And this experiment actually shows us how to design fuel tanks for satellites. And you think, well, gee, why would I care? Everybody uses a cell phone, electronic devices, communication, military defense, you name it. And it all comes from things like this. When we talk about trying to keep my son interested, another way I do that is actually to bring one of his things with me up to space. He's a big fan, and so am I, of Calvin and Hobbes. And so I've brought a little Hobbes up in space with me, and I bring Hobbes to do experiments, and I take pictures and send him down to the ground so he understands what I'm doing every day. And I did that while I was training for this mission as well.
That's so cool. Wow. So, Katie, since you've been in space, what extra daddy duties has your husband had to take on since you're there on a 6-month mission?
Well, you know, I think a lot, and I really thank him for doing all of that. And you know, I would have to say it's hard for me to let some of that go. You know, everything's not going to be done maybe the way that you would do it, and yet I know my son is in great hands. He's just a super dad. I think it's hard for any parent to be a parent alone. I know that because my husband and I both commute, we have a commuting marriage. We're both single parents in a certain way. And so I think it's really hard for him just because there's nobody else to help, really.
On a somber note, oh, okay, hang on one sec.
Okay. Your commander there in space is the brother-in-law to Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords. What has it been like at the International Space Station since the Tucson shootings?
You know, it's hard to be far away when things are happening down on Earth, and I can't speak for Scott, but I think something like the tragedy in Tucson, at least for me, it makes me think how precious all my relationships are, and it just made me want to call everybody that I love and just make sure that they knew that I cared about them. And up here, I think that we have a serious job to do, and we're intent on doing our jobs, and we try not to let things get in the way. And at the same time, there's a value in just thinking about what's going on and trying to come to terms with it.
I'm curious, does it get lonely in space?
Well, I was very excited about this interview just because I won't necessarily say it's lonely up here, but there are not a lot of other women. And so actually the thought of sort of having coffee with you guys was really appealing to me. In fact, I brought mine. I'm serious that there's something nice about girlfriends. There's something nice about sitting around with your girlfriends and saying hello.
Yeah, love that. I'm curious how you also prepared to leave for 6 months. That's such a long trip.
Well, I did my best. I know I've left a lot of holes. I'm still writing back and forth with my husband and making sure he understands how to get my W-2 and all those kinds of, administrative things. My son had known for a couple years that I'd be going to the space station, and I tried to make it really clear when it would happen. It took several years to train. I traveled to Japan, to Europe, to Russia, and around the U.S., training for really almost 3 years to get ready for the mission, and that's actually worse in a way than being up here. They like to say that when I'm up here, at least they know where I am, and in fact, they have an application, where a computer program that they look at, and they know exactly where I am, and they go, "Mom, you're going over Australia." So it's pretty fun to be up here now where they know where I am.
Wow. What research are you doing in space that you're most excited about?
On a day-to-day basis, I love to do the things that I actually get to touch and move, like the experiment that you saw with the bubbles just now. But some of them aren't as tangible. We're doing some research in osteoporosis, which I think is fascinating and valuable. Basically, I'm an experiment, and because we lose bone mass up here, because we don't walk around on our legs, we lose bone at about 10 times the rate of a 70-year-old osteoporotic woman. And so because I don't have some of the potential complications that somebody who's 70 might, I'm sort of a clean medical specimen to do some experiments. And so I'm taking some of those drugs, and we're looking at how my bone mass is changing. And we looked at it before I left, while I'm up here, and also when I get home. And it'll help us understand a lot about how osteoporosis, the mechanism of osteoporosis, which certainly affects millions of people down on the Earth.
Do the health implications of that scare you?
I won't say they scare me, but I'll tell you that I take them very, very seriously, in that we exercise about almost 2 hours a day, which I'll say I'm not disciplined enough to do down on the Earth. But I do it up here because the implications of not exercising are really having a tremendous amount of bone loss. And I have a 10-year-old, and I figure I still have a lot of running around to do when I get home.
Katie, I wanted to ask you, other than your family, your son, as a woman, what do you miss the most?
I'm actually so excited about being here and just living in this environment and discovering new things every day in terms of what's delightful about just being here, about moving back and forth. It's just really such a neat place. I don't actually miss anything yet. I certainly miss my family quite a bit, but at the same time, it's not as if I wish to be there. I'm really happy to be here.
Katie, you mentioned that you exercise 2 hours a day, but being that you have no gravity, how do you exercise in space?
You know, it's a great question, and we have a weightlifting machine which works. It works on a principle of vacuum. Like I'm not really lifting weights, but I'm pulling against something that's pulling on a vacuum, and so it's really hard. Like, you know, when you're trying to get a lid off a jar that's got vacuum on it, it's harder than if there was no vacuum, or when you're pulling against something. So that we do weightlifting, and I'll do, you know, it's like a gym. You know, we have a bar, go up and down, and use my legs. I can do sit-ups, all these arm weights. We have a treadmill that I wear a harness, and it holds me down on the treadmill. And I have to say that it was really interesting after a few days of not exercising, floating around up here. It was fascinating to suddenly be on the treadmill, standing on your feet. And I thought, wow, standing, that's interesting.
What's the first thing you want to do when you eventually do get home back to your family?
Well, I'm assuming a shower will be like right in there. I mean, I'm actually clean up here. You know, my hair is clean, and you know, we take sponge baths literally, and so you're clean. But there's just nothing about like being, you know, actually in a shower. I think, you know, just being on the earth and walking around on your feet, and I think smelling. And smelling, you know, just the garden and outside and the street and cars, and that kind of sense is a little missing up here. And even just listening to noises that aren't just the hum of the space station, and feeling the wind. I'm looking forward to maybe being on a beach and feeling the wind and looking at the ocean.
As we get ready to say goodbye, is there any message you'd like to send out to your 10-year-old son or your husband, your family?
Well, you know, I miss them so much, and I appreciate, I mean, it's a lot of work for them, for me to be gone. And I'm just hoping that while I'm up here, the things that I'm doing end up being worth it. And I actually just really think that they will be. What we do here in space somehow says to kids, wow, don't you want to be an astronaut? Don't you think you could do this? Somehow they look at us and they think they could do this, and they're right. And it inspires them to study hard in school and learn the math and science that they need to be part of the future, because they are the future. So it's a long time to be away from family. It's actually a magical place to spend that time in, and I think that the payoff is very big. It's nice to be with you guys today.
Katie Coleman, thank you so much for joining us. We wish you the best of luck up there in space. Keep doing the good work you're doing. Take good care. We'll be right back.
Thank you, and thanks for inviting me.
Station, this is Houston ACR. Thank you. That concludes the event.
Copy. Thank you. Nice to hear from you guys.
Thank you. The talk station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.
We are starting the straighten up and fly right maneuver, where the spacecraft will jettison the entry balance masses in preparation for parachute deploy and to roll over to give the radar a better look at the ground.
Indicates chute deployed.
The navigation has confirmed that the parachute has deployed, and we are seeing significant deceleration in the velocity. Our current velocity is 440 meters per second at an altitude of about 12 kilometers from the surface of Mars.
Heat shield set.
Perseverance has now slowed to subsonic speeds, and the heat shield has been separated. This allows both the radar and the cameras to get their first look at the surface. Current velocity is 145 meters per second at an altitude of about 9.5 kilometers above the surface.
Nav filter converge. Velocity solution 3.3 meters per second. Altitude 7.4 kilometers.
Now has radar lock on the ground. Current velocity is about 100 meters per second, 6.6 kilometers above the surface of Mars. Perseverance is continuing to descend on the parachute. We are coming up on the initialization of terrain relative navigation and subsequently the priming of the landing engines. Our current velocity is about 90 meters per second at an altitude of 4.2 kilometers.
LVS valid.
We have confirmation that the lander vision system has produced a valid solution and part of terrain relative navigation.
Priming. TBA is nominal.
We have priming of the landing engines.
Back shell set.
Current velocity is 83 meters per second at about 2.6 kilometers from the surface of Mars. We have confirmation that the back shell has separated. We are currently performing the divert maneuver. Current velocity is about 75 meters per second at an altitude of about a kilometer off the surface of Mars.
TRN safety Bravo.
We have completed our terrain relative navigation. Current speed is about 30 meters per second, altitude of about 300 meters off the surface of Mars. We have started our constant velocity accordion, which means we are conducting the sky crane, about to conduct the sky crane maneuver. Sky crane maneuver has started, about 20 meters off the surface.
We're getting signals from MRO.
Tango Delta.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the signs of past life.
Okay, let's go there, Capcom on the hot fire. Okay, all flight controllers going around the horn, gonna go for undocking. Okay, retro, go. Fido, go. Guide, go. Control, go. Telcom, go. Jinsei, go. Ecom, go. Surgeon, go. Capcom, we're go for undocking.
Armstrong, Aldrin, and Collins arrived at the moon on Saturday, July 19th.
When we did get close and we rolled out and saw it for the first time, it was a revelation. It was gigantic. It filled our entire window.
The next day, Sunday, July 20th, was landing day.
And a lot of anticipation. We finally come to the day, the moment that this is about to commence.
Landing on the moon was absolutely the most difficult piece of any Apollo mission, okay? Think about it as a controlled fall out of lunar orbit. The problem is, in this controlled fall out of orbit, you only have enough fuel for one try.
Capcom, we're go for landing. Altitude 4,200. Houston, you're go for landing, over.
The trajectory had been wrong. They were targeted into this inhospitable place. Then they had to fly over this area at a high forward velocity, then pitch up to slow down so that kill their forward velocity, and then start down like a helicopter. So now we're critical fuel state. And that's why the 60-second call was given, and then the 30-second call.
Then I really got nervous, was calling out 25 seconds of fuel left, and then 20 seconds of fuel. Oh, jeez.
Okay, engine stop. APA at a descent. Mode control both auto. Descent engine command override off. Engine arm off. 413 is in.
We copy you down, Eagle.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Roger, Tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
The landing to me was a great celebration. The nation was almost euphoric.
Well, it proved that the United States could accomplish tremendous goals if they worked together as a team.
Each generation, someone has said, stands on the shoulders of those who led the generation before. This generation of high school students stands even taller today. In science particularly, the high school students of today tower over those who began their studies in science 25 or 30 years ago.
35 years ago, when I was a student in high school, things were much different than they are today. My high school science laboratory, although it contained many of the basic items of equipment still in use today, was different in that the amount of information available to us was much less than that available to students today. Also, the avenues for the application of newly acquired knowledge were not so obvious. Today, the fundamentals of science are being applied in more and more diversified fields. America's space program, and Skylab in particular, have helped to broaden the vistas of today's science student. The doors of the high school science lab now open into a new and exciting world, even into the new frontier of space.
Skylab's 3 missions opened the walls of man's earthbound laboratories as never before. Skylab not only extended man's vision and his goals into the expanse of space, the Skylab program extended man's ability to work in space for long periods of time and to conduct in space a series of scientific experiments ranging from the nature of the universe to studies of Earth, and even down to studies of the structure of a single human cell. Skylab made a unique contribution to science, to man's understanding of himself, his planet Earth, the sun from which the Earth receives its energy, the solar system, and space phenomena. 30 years ago, the results of a major scientific investigation of this kind might have taken decades to filter down into the science curricula of high schools. Today, this happens in a matter of months. For within months of the end of the Skylab program, high school science students throughout America were observing science demonstrations televised from Skylab and designed especially for classroom use.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to bounce it with these 2 long pieces of wire that I have. Okay, let's give it a wrap on both sides.
From a demonstration of a Skylab experiment in fluid mechanics to another Skylab demonstration of an experiment with a gypsy moth in space. Science students in high schools today can watch actual experiments performed in space, presented on their level of understanding in science demonstrations prepared by NASA and circulated to schools. These brief demonstration films cover a variety of subjects in various scientific disciplines. There is an experiment with magnets in zero gravity.
They end up producing a flat spin. And the explanation for that is something that I'm not aware of. And it was a puzzle to me when I first saw it here the other day. And perhaps you can talk that over in your science classes and figure out a good explanation.
Another experiment deals with the behavior of liquid films in space. Astronaut Owen Garriott investigates the behavior of minnows born in the zero gravity of space compared with those born on Earth. Astronaut Alan Bean demonstrates the behavior of darts in a weightless environment. Astronaut Edward Gibson on liquid floating zones. Skylab science demonstrations on other subjects included fluid mechanics, human body momentum, Rochelle's salt growth, and the gyroscope operating in zero gravity.
The spacecraft systems, the Apollo system uses a little gyro like this, a set of them, and it uses these gyros to remember its orientation. What we do is before we spin up the gyro,
Skylab, man in space exploring for high school students today phenomena that cannot be observed on Earth. Skylab is also sure to be noted as the first major scientific undertaking in which experiments designed and supervised by high school student investigators were carried out. For these young scientists, Skylab opened onto space, their classroom walls, erasing the limits with which students so young have always studied until now, accelerating the process of learning at this age.
Hello, I'm Kirk Shearhart from Berkeley, Michigan. My experiment, powder flow in zero gravity, ED73, is part of the Student Skylab project.
I'm Ken Brandt from Grand Blanc, Michigan, student investigator for this project.
Hello, I'm Allison Hopfield. I'm from Princeton, New Jersey, where I'm a junior at Princeton Day School. I'm a student experimenter on ED21, photography of libration clouds.
I'm Vince Converse from Harlem High School in Rockford, Illinois. My Skylab student experiment is zero-gravity mass measurement.
I'm Robert Staley of the Harley School in Rochester, New York.
Hi, I'm Joel Werdicamper from West Point, Nebraska, the student investigator for this experiment. On Earth, roots grow towards gravity or exhibit geotropism, while the stems grow towards light or exhibit phototropism.
I'm Donald Slack, and I'm from Downey High School in Downey, California. I'm one of the Skylab student experimenters.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Pelt, and I'm the student investigator for the Skylab student experiment ED63. It's entitled Cytoplasmic Streaming in Zero Gravity.
I'm Judy Miles. I'm from Lexington, Massachusetts, and I'm the student investigator for ED52, red formation in zero gravity.
Over 3,400 students from high schools throughout the country submitted experiments for review by the National Science Teachers Association. The experiments of 25 students were selected for inclusion on Skylab.
Hi, I'm Todd Meister, the student investigator for Skylab experiment ED32, in vitro immunology.
All 25 students either had their experiments flown on board or were associated with NASA scientists on other Skylab projects. All these students thus remained involved in the Skylab program, a learning experience all of them enjoyed. Wouldn't you?
Hi, I'm Kathy Jackson. I'm from Clear Creek High School in Lake City, Texas, which is near Houston, Texas. This is my experiment, ED41, and it's called a quantitative measure of motor sensory performance during prolonged in-flight zero-G.
Hey! Another 45 seconds. Can't beat that. Well, Kathy, hope you learned something. It's been fun.
Kathy learned something. So did her fellow student investigators as they followed up their experiments after Skylab returned its experimental data to Earth. And so a new experience in secondary education began. An experience spreading throughout America's schools today, where students not only benefit from the impact of Skylab research in a wide variety of scientific disciplines, they also benefit from the fact that for these students, Skylab opened the doors, opened the walls of their schools to a limitless expanse, and opened their minds to unlimited speculation and to unlimited dreams.
Teachers were limited to a textbook and what was printed in that textbook, where now they can expand to live television programs and visual aids. I mean, it stands to reason that somewhere out there floating in space, there has to be something just other than space.
And we thought, well, you know, maybe in the future we say that some of us want to be doctors or something. You know, we say, well, we're going to be like our parents.
We got much more of a response to the entire program itself, you know, which I don't think we would have. The experiment that I would do, probably, I think would turn my attention toward the sun.
Skylab was only the beginning. We are on the verge of an era when man will launch a whole new generation of manned space laboratories regularly served by shuttles to carry scientists, technicians, experiments, and supplies between Earth and space. As this new era of space exploration begins, Along with it will grow a new and continuously enriched educational experience for students in America's schools. An experience that will have an immeasurable impact on science and on man in the years that lie beyond tomorrow.
notre terminal vient. Tous du DDO, attention pour les décomptes finales. 10, 9, 8, 7.
It's morning launch, almost 3:30, and we're gonna make our fueling go or no go call soon.
Okay, take it away, Rob. It's all yours.
Merry Christmas from the Guyana Space Center, where fueling of the vehicle is moments away, while Webb systems are being carefully monitored for the momentous launch of the largest, most powerful telescope ever sent away from our planet.
It is the product of a feat of human ingenuity.
14 countries all working together.
We want to look back and see some of the very first stars and galaxies that were born in the early universe.
What we call cosmic dawn.
We have to accept the fact that we are in a risky business.
Everybody said if James Webb is unsuccessful, then NASA will never take on a big challenge again.
There's a little pond down here.
Yes,
there still is. Used to come fishing here occasionally.
Well, I would like to tell you the entire story of the universe and a bit about how we learned about it and my personal part of this process and where we're going from here. And the title slide here says from the Big Bang and on, etc., to the discovery of alien life. And so we haven't exactly found it yet, but I think it's possible in the next few decades. And so I want to outline at the very end how we are hoping to find out about that. So there are many, many mysteries. I got interested in math and science when I was a little kid. Here is a picture of the place where I grew up. My dad was a scientist, but he studied dairy cows. I heard from him that people are made out of cells with chromosomes. I can remember I was about 6 years old and I'd heard about infinity. Well, that's pretty fascinating. So, okay, I want to know more about this. By 8 years old, I was reading Galileo and Darwin biographies and getting all the books about science I could get from the public library. I latched on pretty early. I knew when I got into the mission that it was going to be exciting. I said, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard of. This is what I want to work on. And I do not care how hard it is or how long it's going to take. I just want to work on it and make it happen.
I love the feeling of awe, but then sharing that excitement with someone is then the next best feeling in the world.
It's super close, but it's not.
Oh, these two? One of the things growing up in the city that we didn't really ever see was the sky. I do remember sort of one of these like core childhood memories is going up to Canada on a family vacation and my parents ushering me outside one night to look at the Milky Way. And I didn't understand what it was. And I was like, there's milk up there? They're like, no, no, no. That's our solar system. And we're looking up at all the stars that you wouldn't otherwise see. And I really didn't comprehend because I had no exposure to that prior in my life.
Looks like we're over the door.
And here I am, years later, following the astonishing story of the James Webb Space Telescope.
Nature has this way of being even more creative than we are. So we have always been surprised by what we see in the sky.
This is a really tremendous adventure that we've been on.
The first Hubble Deep Field actually came out when I was in high school. I already knew I wanted to be an astronomer, but I remember being just captivated by these images that were coming back from Hubble. It blew my mind to see that first deep field image, and that was sort of a, like, yep, this is what I want to do.
The earliest conception of Webb derived from the fact that Hubble took a deep field and didn't see newly formed galaxies after the birth of the universe.
It's sort of like we're missing that very first piece of the puzzle of how galaxies got their start.
Every time NASA builds a new telescope, it needs to be way more sensitive than anything we've ever built before. So every time you launch something, it was a new window on the universe. And so for Webb, we needed to build something that was 100 times more capable.
The main thing that Webb had to do to be successful was find these very first galaxies.
To look back in time to a part of space that we've never seen before and see the very first epoch of galaxies that were born after the Big Bang.
People think the Big Bang is a mystery because they think it's not what it is. The actual picture that we have as astronomers is the entire universe is expanding. The material is rushing apart from other material in a rather smooth, continuous way. Well, we see the galaxies rushing away from us. So what's going to make them rush apart? Well, something kicked them off that way. But since we imagine the universe is infinite, it has to be an infinitely large cause, whatever that is. So we just imagine running the movie backwards in our minds until it's different. So when you get farther enough back in time, the temperature, everything is mushed together. The galaxies are mushed together, the stars are mushed together, the atoms are mushed together. The atoms are torn apart into their constituent subatomic particles. So that's the movie you get if you run everything backwards. So then when you run out of imagine, you say, that's the Big Bang. So needless to say, astronomers have been imagining for a long time, what was this?
What would you call it if you could name it?
I just call it the expanding universe story. In Calvin and Hobbes, there was a different answer. Calvin called it the horrendous space kablooey, but that didn't catch.
And I now ask you to step forward to receive your Nobel Prizes from the hands of His Majesty, the King.
And it was March of 1996 when John Mather stopped into my office out here at Goddard and asked me if I'd like to work with him on a new telescope idea he was thinking about. And when John came by and said this, of course, this was before he had his Nobel Prize, but everybody knew, oh, if John asked you to work with him, you want to work with him. So I said, sure, that would be fun. I figured, well, I'd do that for a couple of years.
So, Dr. Smith, what is a next-generation space telescope?
Well, the NGST, or Next Generation Space Telescope, is the logical successor to the Hubble Space Telescope, or HST. NGST is designed to see the first stars and galaxies that light up in the universe. And, well, here we are, more than 25 years later. I'm still working on Webb.
Apollo 8, over.
Hello, Apollo 8.
Loud and clear.
Administrator O'Keefe renamed the Next Generation Space Telescope to the James Webb Space Telescope in honor of James Webb, who was the second administrator of NASA. So why name it after this guy? Well, James Webb was largely responsible for the success of the Apollo program.
So you're going to have both science and technology appreciating your leadership in this field. I think this can be an asset, this program. I think in time it's like a lot of things. It's sort of mid-journey, and therefore everybody says, what the hell are we making this trip for? That's right. But at the end of the thing, they may be glad we made it.
Houston, Columbia on the high gate, over.
Roger, the EVA is progressing beautifully.
The Webb telescope is kind of like my child, because I've been working on it since the first day that we started.
So when I started on Webb, my youngest son had just been born. Well, he's got a master's degree, works at Johns Hopkins, and he's going to be 28. I had hair. I didn't need hearing aids or glasses. And yeah, it's a long time, but in hindsight, it's also a short time. We had this singular purpose for 25 years to make the James Webb Space Telescope a reality. And, people did think we were nuts at first because the technical challenges were so daunting. And the number of things we had to advance or literally invent were numerous.
I remember we had a draftsman who was able to draw what we said on a whiteboard, and we said we needed a big telescope with a big baffle, a big umbrella to protect it from the heat of the sun. So he drew this on the whiteboard, and we all said, yeah, that looks pretty good. We need something like that, and it's going to have to fold up. And we started talking about how to fold it up, and that was just the beginning, and we knew we were onto something.
In the early parts of the mission, we talk to the scientists and we find out what's the scientific objectives of this mission. What do you want it to do, right? Then we put that into a language that engineers understand called requirements. How big does it have to be? What kind of sensitivity do you want? In other words, what's the dimmest thing you want to see?
The James Webb Observatory has 3 parts to it. The first part is the telescope and the science instruments. This has to be very, very cold.
It's designed to collect infrared light. So infrared is something that you cannot really see with your eyes. The Hubble telescope can see a little bit of it, but it's not cold. So the Hubble telescope glows and emits infrared light itself, so you cannot use it to do all of the things that astronomers have identified as their next top priority. This telescope is going to be in outer space. It's going to be cooled to a very low temperature of 45 degrees above absolute zero, so that it does not glow.
There's one instrument in there called the MIRI that wants to be about 7 degrees Kelvin. And to put that in perspective, dry ice, carbon dioxide dry ice, is at about minus 109 degrees Fahrenheit. The second part is the spacecraft bus. And the spacecraft bus operates at room temperature, up here at 70 degrees Fahrenheit, and it has the usual subsystems, the communication subsystem, the computer, the thrusters, the electrical power system. Then, between the two, is the third part, the sun shield. 5 thin layers about the size of a tennis court that separate the hot side from the cold side. 5 little layers that keep this thing in the shadows. And this umbrella, as I might call it, is no ordinary umbrella. On the hot side, 200,000 watts of solar radiation strikes it, and it can only allow 0.02 watts to get through. This umbrella is setting up an almost 600 degree Fahrenheit difference. And if it were suntan lotion, it would have an SPF of 10 million.
And it's going to have to fold up, and we started talking about how to fold it up. And it's got to be bigger than the Hubble telescope, and it's got to get way out there, and we can't get it there without a pretty big rocket. So what's the biggest one you can get? Well, it's not all that big. We're going to have to make a telescope that's much bigger than the Hubble and simultaneously much lighter. We ended up at half the mass and 7 times the collecting area.
All 13,670 pounds, all 6 metric tons of this has to be launched 1 million miles out in outer space. And it has to fit into a fairing that's only about 5 meters in diameter, when the size of this sun shield is 21 meters in diameter. So to do that, we have to fold it up like origami so that it fits into here.
Pretty soon we know our job is pretty hard. Okay, gonna have lots of inventions along the way. So we made up a list of 10 inventions that we had to have pretty quickly. And we said, okay, world, tell us how you can make these inventions.
You have to keep in mind a lot of the technologies for Webb were new technologies, right? So you have a plan on how you're going to do it. And when you are testing it, lots of times something doesn't work. You have a schedule, a certain amount of time, and a certain amount of money.
Basically, people, although they don't quite say so, they think, your telescope looks weird. So our telescope does look different from every other telescope you've ever seen. It doesn't look like Galileo's little tube with a lens at each end. Way different from anything that we've ever built for anywhere before.
We're building a perfectly great telescope on the ground. We're aligning on the ground. We're testing on the ground. It's going to work perfectly, right? It's going to be
Teams are just loading this propellant at a faster rate. Now, following the liquid hydrogen operations on the upper stage, teams will then also work on their propellant loading operations for the liquid oxygen tank that is also in there. In total, the SLS rocket has 4 tanks, 2 liquid hydrogen and 2 liquid oxygen, 1 of each on each stage. So you have there our upper stage, or the interim cryogenic propulsion stage, and then underneath sits the core stage. That is the first stage and the main stage of the SLS rocket. It is the orange segment that you see there on your screen in between the 2 solid rocket boosters. We are also in our fast fill operations for both liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen on the core stage. So fueling is well underway, and everything is looking good so far for our 2-hour launch window that opens at 6:24 p.m. Eastern Time this evening. Now, Artemis 2 is scheduled to lift off from Launch Complex 39B. That's what you see there on your screen. That's where SLS is currently situated. And it is a gorgeous day here on the Space Coast. We have some beautiful white puffy clouds and some clear blue skies. We're looking at 80% chance of favorable weather conditions. And our astronauts that are getting ready to launch on this historic mission are now starting their day. They woke up not too long ago and will pretty soon go through all of the checkouts and steps that are needed before they're ready to get on their rocket. There's a picture of them on your screen there. From left to right, we have the pilot, Victor Glover. Then you have our mission specialist, Jeremy Hansen, and right next to him is our other mission specialist, Christina Cook. Next to her is then our commander, Reed Wiseman. These 4 astronauts will go on a 10-day mission around the moon and back on board the Orion spacecraft. Now, fun fact, you see again there, we were talking a little bit about the different sections of the rocket, and we mentioned briefly the Orion stage adapter. Now, the Orion stage adapter is the last section of the SLS rocket. It's what sits in between the interim cryogenic propulsion stage and the Orion spacecraft. And it's also what houses our secondary payloads, or these shoebox-sized CubeSats, that will be providing and conducting scientific experiments. They'll be deployed shortly after separation from the upper stage and the spacecraft, and they will go to their specific destination in space to conduct scientific data. Now, inside the Orion stage adapter, fun fact, our astronauts, so Reed Wiseman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen, they actually got the opportunity to sign the interior of the OSA, or that Orion stage adapter. So their names are on that rocket. It is fully built by NASA at Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama. Now, going back to the upper stage, that interim cryogenic propulsion stage, it holds roughly 24,000 gallons of liquid propellant. The liquid hydrogen tank is approximately 17,000 gallons, and the liquid oxygen is roughly 6,000 gallons. Much smaller in comparison to the core stage, that holds roughly 733,000 gallons total. You have 537,000 gallons of liquid hydrogen on the core stage tank, and then roughly 197,000 or 196,000 on the liquid oxygen tank. Fully fueled, SLS weighs about 5.74 million pounds of thrust. And now all these 4 tanks, the one on the upper stage and the one on the core stage, they feed, all those tanks, they feed into the engines at liftoff. So the core stage will feed the 4 RS-25 engines that you see at the bottom of your screen there. And the upper stage, meanwhile, will feed its 1 RL-10 engine that is actually enclosed by the launch vehicle stage adapter. That is the nose cone shaped orange structure that you see on your screen there. It is actually hiding the RL-10 engine from our view. But this is done on purpose to protect the upper stage. So to quickly recap, we are in fast fill for liquid hydrogen on our upper stage. We have not started our propellant loading operations on the liquid oxygen tank yet. I'll report out once that operation is underway. And on the core stage, meanwhile, we are still in our fast fill operations for both tanks, for both liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen.
Think safety. Think Grainger. For trusted products to lock, anchor, contain, and protect. Grainger. Call, click, or just stop by.
Imagine a yacht designed to make you feel at home. Light-filled, open-air spaces connect you to the seas and shores you explore. The Ritz-Carlton Yacht Collection, unlike the rest.
Great. Then what do? We bust it up, we fold it up, we put it into a launch vehicle. Then once we get it on orbit and it deploys, now we got to realign it on orbit remotely. 50 of the most complex deployments ever attempted robotically.
The telescope looks weird, but that's a matter of perspective. To me, it looks beautiful.
So that's your mission if you choose to accept it.
Yes, we had 344 single-point failures, 295 of which were associated with deployment, almost all of which would have been mission-ending.
So with Webb, we should probably go back to 1990 with the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope.
And liftoff of the Space Shuttle Discovery with the Hubble Space Telescope, our window on the universe.
NASA launches the Hubble Space Telescope, the biggest space science mission ever.
Discovery Houston, performance is nominal.
And shortly thereafter, it's discovered that its vision is blurry.
The conclusion we've come to from that is that there's a significant spherical aberration appears to be present in the optics.
I was devastated because I'd worked my entire career on Hubble at that point.
Congress had hearings. Hubble's the butt of late-night TV jokes. It becomes a major embarrassment and major black eye for the agency.
Although the surface of the mirror was perfectly smooth, the smoothest mirror ever made by humans on Earth, the trouble is it was too flat at the edges, about 1/1,000,000 of an inch, which is less than the diameter of a human hair. But that was enough to cause a tremendous